Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another PlayStation 4 review. Today's review is for 35mm or 35mm, and many thanks to the publisher, sometimes you, for providing me with a review code. Now what is 35mm? Well, this game is a narrative heavy exploration game, is probably the best way to describe it. It is set in a post-apocalyptic Russia, and it focuses on two travelers, and essentially you are this traveler in this post-apocalyptic Russia, and you're traveling across this land, scraping for resources, and trying to make your way safely across to the city and things like that. Now, what can you expect if you're going to play this game? Well, what you can expect really with this game is exactly that. It's an exploration game, and it's quite a reflective game really. It's quite a downbeat and depressing game at times. I mean, it's not an uplifting game. I mean, the environment in which you're playing the game in obviously is pretty bleak. It's like war-torn, post-apocalyptic. Most of the people, even though you don't meet many people in the game, most of them you do meet are against you, so you've got to kind of hide, run, that kind of thing. So you're kind of going through building shacks, looking for resources, things like medikits, bits of food, bits of water, some weaponry here and there. Not that you're going to get called into action, because I mean, while I do think there are aspects of this game that I think a certain gamer will enjoy, and if you are one of these gamers that likes really quite relaxed and chilled games, even though the subject matter here is not particularly uplifting, or what some people describe as like walking simulators sort of games, then there's some things here that you're going to enjoy, and it's not an expensive game to buy, and it's not a lengthy game either, and it's a fairly reasonably easy platinum to get as well. So there are aspects here for that type of game, but it's going to kind of, you know, be the kind of thing you're looking for. But there's also a lot of things that this game does that really do grind, and are quite difficult to A, get to grips with, and B, tolerate. For example, number one, the way the game looks. I mean, at best, and this is being me complimentary, the game looks like an early PlayStation 3 game. At times it just looks really terrible. And there are other times when you're walking along and you've got the ambience around you of the trees blowing, and you know, and you're looking around at a calm blue sky and things like that. It feels quite chilled and relaxed. But any time you're kind of doing anything, you know, whatever it might be, whether you're doing any searching for resources or combat or anything like that, or even the cutscenes where you're talking to your companion, I mean, it just looks really quite terrible. So the game is not impressive visually in any way, shape or form. Now, I have not come across any game-breaking bugs or crashes or major glitches or anything like that, but don't expect, you know, impressive frame rates. I mean, the game's just full of popping and all this kind of stuff as well. So it's not a technically polished game in the way it looks at all. It's tolerable at best. Now, if you're one of these gamers that, you know, looks are everything, this game ain't for you by any stretch of the imagination. The game mechanics as well are very, very dated. For example, you will find just early on in the game, for example, within the first hour of playing it, you've got to kind of search for a well. But you need to find a bucket first, and then you need to go and find a well to get some water for the camp that you're at, with the campfire. There's no map, or there's no indication of where these things are, and it was dark, and it took me about an hour to A, find the bucket, and B, find the well, because, the well didn't look anything like I expected the well to look like. So the game doesn't hold your hand. Now, I don't necessarily want a game to hold my hand, but to give you some kind of clue, I mean, if you like exploration games where the game just does not tell you anything, then you're going to quite enjoy aspects of this game. Another thing, quite early in the game, you're going to get to, like, as you can see here, like a thing on a train track, and it's no fuel, so you have to go back to a village to find some fuel. It doesn't tell you how to find this fuel. You will get gentle hints along the way. For example, you may get to a barn, but the door's locked. But it'll tell you, oh, if you can find an axe, you might be able to break through this. So you've got to go and searching for an axe. So you kind of know, well, there has to be something behind this door if I find an axe. And so lo and behold, there is. There's things like that. There was the fuel behind there. So it does reward exploration, this game, but it also is quite infuriating and frustrating because at times you figure things out fairly quickly, and at other times it just doesn't hold your hand in any way, shape or form. So it's full of like environmental puzzles, the game, for you to kind of figure out and solve. And it does reward exploration to some degree. Some places you'll go in, you'll find little things. You'll find little pieces of paper as well. It'll give you snippets about what's been happening in the world, why you're kind of in the state that you're in, why the world's in the state that it's in. Certainly in Russia, where this game is based anyway. So in regards to the strengths for the game, like I say, it's quite a chilled out experience. I like chilled out games, and I found for the most part this game being really, really chilled. There are a couple of, tense moments. It tries to give you a tense moment here and there. It's quite a reflective story, quite, like I say, it's quite downbeat, but it's quite reflective, and it's got some good ambience now and again, and it's got some fairly decent weather effects going on. But whenever it tries to step outside what I think its strengths are, it's really terrible. I mean, it attempts to do some combat in the game, and it's like quick time events for the fighting, and it's just shocking. There's no impact or anything. It's just really bad. And occasionally you'll be able to use a weapon like a gun, and it's just really bad. It's like amongst the worst I've ever played in a game. So there's aspects of the game that are just shocking, especially when you consider in 2022, and the game mechanics here are not acceptable. I think it could have done with other things adding to the game, like maybe crafting, from all the resource collecting you do. It seems a bit pointless. Like, for example, you're picking up like food and things like that, but there's no real indication that when you should eat and how often you should eat. There's no food and water like count or anything like that when you're getting hungry or thirsty or things like that. It seems like a lot of the resources you're collecting, you're doing, has no point to it. Now, for me, in an exploration game like this, I think they could have improved the resource collecting a bit more, and maybe added things like crafting, and expanded on certain mechanics of the game to make it a little bit more interesting. So the only thing really that worth recommending about this game is the exploration side of it, and the reflective narrative story. The other things that it does, I think it does pretty poorly. So I can only really give this one a 5.5 out of 10. There are aspects of the game that are fairly chilled and enjoyable, but for the most part it does feel quite unplayable and really, really dreadfully out of date. So see what you think, guys. It's not an expensive game to pick up, and it might just be the sort of thing that you're looking for. For me, I found it quite frustrating at times to play. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and of course I'll be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.